I paid a private detective in cash and told him not to spare me, because after 40 years of marriage, I had already felt something break that couldn't be fixed. The day his report came in, I sat at the kitchen table where my wife had served me thousands of meals, and I couldn't bring myself to open the envelope. My hands were steady, but my chest wasn't. Whatever was inside had been happening right under my roof, in my name, in my life. And I knew, before I even saw it, that it would change everything I thought I knew about the woman I had trusted for 4 decades. That kitchen had seen every version of us. Burned toast when we were young, quiet coffee before work, birthday cakes for children who no longer called unless they wanted something. Even that morning the room looked the same. Pale curtains, sugar bowl by the stove, her reading glasses folded beside the sink. But nothing in that house felt ordinary anymore. The first lie had been small enough to survive. A Wednesday quilting group that ran too late. Cash missing from the drawer where we kept grocery money. A perfume I didn't recognize on a scarf she said belonged to her sister. After 40 years, a man learns the rhythm of another person's breathing, their footsteps in the hallway, the way they answer simple questions when they've got nothing to hide. My wife had started answering like every word cost her something. I tried to be decent about it. I asked once, then twice. She looked me in the face and said, "You're getting suspicious in your old age." That stung more than I let on. I was 78, not senile. I still drove my own truck, still balanced the books, still remembered the exact day we buried our boy, and the exact day she told me she'd never leave my side. Age hadn't made me foolish. It had made me careful. The detective had followed her for 12 days. 12. That number bothered me more than it should have. A whole dozen days of my marriage laid out in somebody else's handwriting. I finally slid my finger under the flap and pulled out the papers. The first photograph showed her outside a bank downtown. The second showed her getting into a silver Buick I had never seen before. The third made my stomach go hollow. She was standing on the porch of a narrow white house, one hand over her mouth, crying into the chest of a man I didn't know. There was a note clipped to the top page in the detective's neat block letters. She has visited this address regularly for 11 months. The owner is listed as Daniel Mercer, age 56. However, he is not the reason I believe you hired me too late. I read that line 3 times. Then I turned the page and saw a name from my own family written there. And, for a second, I forgot how to breathe. I stared at that name until the letters blurred together. It wasn't just unfamiliar. It was wrong. The kind of wrong that doesn't fit into anything you've built your life around. I flipped the page again, slower this time, like maybe I had misunderstood it the first time. Daniel Mercer. The name meant nothing to me, but the address, that did. It was 3 streets over from our house. I sat back in the chair and let that settle in. 40 years of marriage, and whatever was happening had been happening close enough for me to walk to. Close enough for me to pass it on my way to the hardware store. Close enough that I might have seen her there without ever knowing what I was looking at. The report went on. Dates, times, notes written in that same steady handwriting. Arrived at 10:14 a.m., stayed 2 hours, emotional interaction observed, returned 3 days later, brought grocery bags, remained inside. I felt something tighten in my chest, not sharp like panic, but slow, like a door closing somewhere deep inside me. I kept reading because stopping felt worse. Then I reached the last page. That was where he'd written the part he couldn't fit into clean sentences. The subject appears financially involved. Multiple bank withdrawals in cash over the past year. Estimated total exceeds $90,000. No evidence of romantic behavior in the traditional sense. Relationship appears complicated. Complicated. I let out a dry breath at that word. 40 years reduced to complicated. I looked around the kitchen again, at the chair where she used to sit and read in the evenings, at the clock she insisted on winding by hand even after we could afford better. Every piece of that room had a memory attached to it. And suddenly, I couldn't trust any of them. I folded the report carefully, not out of respect, just habit. My hands had always been steady, even when my mind wasn't. The front door opened a few minutes later. She stepped inside like she always did, setting her purse down on the same hook, slipping off her shoes by the mat. "You're up early," she said, her voice soft, almost distracted. I watched her, really watched her. There was something different about her now that I couldn't unsee. Not guilt, exactly. Not fear. Just distance. Like she had already left me in ways I hadn't noticed. "Where were you?" I asked. She paused, just for a second. "Running errands." Same answer, same tone, same lie. I nodded slowly, like I accepted it. "You've been busy lately." She didn't meet my eyes. Just things that needed taking care of. That phrase stayed with me. Things that needed taking care of. I thought about the withdrawals, the house, the man, the way she had cried in that photograph like she was holding on to something she couldn't afford to lose. "I see," I said quietly. She moved around the kitchen like nothing had changed, filling the kettle, opening cabinets. The same small sounds I had heard for decades. But now every movement felt rehearsed, like she was playing a role she had already practiced somewhere else. I should have confronted her then. Any younger man would have. Demanded answers, thrown the papers on the table. But something in me held back. Because that note from the detective hadn't been finished. There was one more line at the very bottom, almost like he hesitated before writing it. "You should know. The individual connected to this address has a documented history that directly involves your family." I didn't say anything to her that morning. Instead, I sat there and watched the woman I had spent my life with pour 2 cups of coffee. And I realized I had no idea who she had been pouring the second cup for all these months. I didn't go to bed that night. She did. I heard her moving around upstairs, the soft creak of the floorboards, the bathroom light clicking off, the familiar rhythm of a life we had built together. For years, that sound used to comfort me. It meant everything was where it was supposed to be. Now it felt like I was listening to a stranger settle into my home. I stayed at the kitchen table with the report in front of me, reading the same lines over and over until they stopped meaning anything. Daniel Mercer, 3 streets over, 11 months, $90,000. And that last sentence directly involves your family. I tried to place the name, went back through old memories like flipping through a worn-out photo album in my head. Neighbors, co-workers, old friends, distant relatives. Nothing fit. Not a single face came to mind. That was what unsettled me the most. If this man was tied to my family, I should have known him. Around 2 in the morning, I got up and walked to the living room. The house was quiet in that heavy way it gets after midnight. I stood by the window and looked out at the street. Same street I'd lived on for 32 years. Same cracked pavement, same old maple tree leaning just a little too far over the curb. 3 streets over. I could have walked there in 10 minutes. The thought sat in my chest like a weight. Not curiosity, something colder than that. A kind of slow, creeping certainty that whatever I'd find wouldn't give me peace, but I needed to see it. By the time the sun came up, I had already made up my mind. She was still asleep when I left. I didn't wake her, didn't leave a note. I just put on my coat, took my keys, and stepped outside into the kind of morning that feels too quiet for the world it's about to hold. The walk was slower than it used to be, not because I couldn't move faster, but because every step felt like it mattered, like I was crossing into something I wouldn't be able to step back out of. I turned onto the street from the report and stopped halfway down. The house was easy to spot. White siding, just like in the photograph. Small porch. A chair by the door with a faded cushion. It didn't look like anything special. Not the kind of place you'd hide a life in. Not the kind of place worth throwing away 40 years for. I stood across the street for a long time, just looking at it. No movement, no sound. Then the front door opened. and the man stepped out. He was younger than me by at least 20 years. Tall, thin, a little worn around the edges like life hadn't gone easy on him. He turned to lock the door behind him, and for a moment, I saw his face clearly. Something about it hit me wrong. Not recognition exactly, but close enough to make my stomach tighten. He walked down the steps, paused, and looked up, right at me. We stood there like that for a second too long. Two men on opposite sides of a quiet street, neither one speaking, both knowing something had already gone too far. Then he nodded. Just a small, polite nod, like we were neighbors passing each other on an ordinary day. And that was when I realized something that made my hands go cold. He wasn't surprised to see me. He knew exactly who I was. I didn't move, didn't speak. I just watched him walk past me, close enough that I could hear his breathing, steady, calm, like this moment had been expected. When he was gone, I turned back to the house. The front curtain shifted slightly, and for just a second, I saw her standing there, watching me from inside that place like I was the outsider. That was the moment it stopped being suspicion and became something much worse. I don't remember walking back home. I must have, but it felt like one of those dreams where your legs move and nothing around you makes sense. The street, the houses, even my own front door looked unfamiliar, like I had stepped into someone else's life by mistake. She was in the kitchen when I came in, same as always, standing by the stove, stirring something slow and steady like time hadn't shifted at all. She glanced over her shoulder when she heard the door. "You went out early," she said. I took off my coat, hung it up carefully. My hands were still steady. That part of me hadn't changed. I took a walk. She nodded like that was enough, like it always had been. For a moment, I just stood there watching her. The curve of her back, the way she held the spoon, the quiet familiarity of it. 40 years teaches you a person's shape better than their words ever could. But now that shape didn't match the truth anymore. "I saw the house," I said. The spoon stopped. Not dropped, not shaken, just stopped. She didn't turn around right away. I could see her thinking, measuring something, deciding what version of herself she was about to show me. "I don't know what you mean," she said finally. That was the last lie she gave me easily. "It's 3 streets over," I said. "White siding, small porch, man named Daniel Mercer." Now she turned, and I saw it. Not fear, not guilt, relief. Like something heavy she'd been carrying had finally been set down. "You weren't supposed to find out like this," she said quietly. I let that sit between us. "Then how?" I asked. "After I'm dead?" She flinched at that, just a little. "That's not fair." "No," I said. "What's not fair is living in a house with someone for 40 years and realizing you've been a stranger to them for the last one." She set the spoon down slowly, wiped her hands on a towel that had our initials stitched into the corner. A wedding gift from 1972. I noticed things like that now. Every detail felt like evidence. "It's not what you think," she said. I gave a short, tired breath. That's what people say when it's exactly what I think. "It's not an affair." I looked at her. "Then what is it?" I asked. She hesitated, and that hesitation, that was worse than any answer she could have given. "I've been helping him," she said. $90,000 worth of helping?" Her eyes dropped for the first time. "He needed it." I felt something sharp move through my chest, but I kept my voice even. "And I didn't." She looked back up at me, and there it was again. That distance. "You had everything." I let that sink in. 40 years, a home, a life, a family built piece by piece, and in her mind, that had turned into everything, like it was something separate from her. "Who is he?" I asked. She opened her mouth, closed it, then finally said, "You don't know him." I stepped closer. "That man knew me," I said. He looked right at me like he'd been expecting this day. Her face changed at that. Something cracked through the calm she'd been holding on to. "You saw him?" she asked. "Yes." Silence filled the room, thick and heavy. For a moment, I thought she might finally tell me the truth. But instead, she shook her head slowly, like she was arguing with something inside herself. "It's complicated," she whispered. I felt a quiet anger settle in, the kind that doesn't explode, just stays. "No," I said. "It's not." I walked past her into the living room, then turned back. "Whatever this is, it's not new," I said. "And it's not just about money." She didn't answer, didn't follow me. She just stood there in that kitchen, holding onto the edge of the counter like it was the only thing keeping her upright. I should have pushed harder, should have demanded the truth right then, but something in me already knew. The answer wasn't going to fix anything. It was going to take what was left and finish it. As I stood there, trying to decide whether to keep digging or walk away, there was a knock at the front door. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. I didn't need to look to know who it was, but when I opened the door and saw him standing there, I realized this wasn't just something that had been happening behind my back. This was something that had been waiting for me to step into it. He stood there like he belonged on that porch. Not nervous, not apologetic, just steady. The same way he'd been across the street that morning, like this moment had already happened in his mind a dozen times. Up close, I could see the lines on his face better. Not old, but worn. The kind of face that had lived through something and never quite put it down. "Mr. Carter," he said. Hearing my name out of his mouth did something to me I can't fully explain. It wasn't anger. It was something deeper. Like a thread I didn't know existed had just been pulled tight. "You know who I am," I said. "Yes, sir." Behind me, I heard her step into the hallway. I didn't turn around, but I could feel her there, waiting, watching. "Then you better start talking," I said. He glanced past me, just for a second, toward her. "She didn't tell you," he said quietly. "No," I answered. "She didn't." He nodded once, like that confirmed something he already suspected. "Then I'll say it straight," he said. And for the first time, I saw something shift in him. Not fear, but weight. "My name is Daniel Mercer," he said. "I'm your son." The words didn't land all at once. They came apart in pieces. "Son. Your." I felt my grip tighten on the door frame. Not because I was going to fall, but because the ground had already shifted underneath me. "That's not possible," I said. My voice sounded calm. Too calm. He didn't argue, didn't raise his voice. He just stood there and let the silence sit between us. "It is," he said after a moment. "And she's known the whole time." Now I turned. She was standing a few feet behind me, her face pale, her hands clenched together like she was holding on to something invisible. "Tell him," Daniel said, not harsh, just certain. She didn't move. I looked at her. Really looked this time. 40 years, every memory, every shared moment. And suddenly they all felt like they had something hidden underneath them. "Tell me," I said. Her lips trembled, just slightly. "He was born before we met," she said. I shook my head. "No. You have to listen." "No," I said again, firmer now. "We talked about everything. There were no secrets like that." "There were," she whispered. The room felt smaller, the walls closer. "I was 19, she said. "It was before you, before everything. I got pregnant, and my parents forced me to give him up." I stared at her. "You told me you never had children before ours." "I lied," she said. The word hung there, plain and quiet. "For 40 years?" I asked. Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't look away. I thought it was over. I thought I'd buried it. I let out a slow breath that didn't steady anything. "And him?" I asked, nodding toward the man at the door. "He just..." "What?" "Showed up?" Daniel spoke before she could. "I found her," he said. "About a year ago. I'd been looking for a long time. I looked back at him. And the money? I asked. I didn't ask for it, he said. Not like that. But you took it. His jaw tightened. She offered. She said she owed me. I felt something hollow open up inside me. Owed him. And what about me? I asked quietly. Neither of them answered right away. That silence told me more than anything else had. You let me live in this house, I said, looking at her. Eat at that table, sleep beside you every night, while you built another life 3 streets away. It's not another life, she said, her voice breaking. It's something I lost and found again. And I'm what? I asked. Her eyes closed for a second. You're my husband. I nodded slowly. Not the whole truth, though, I said. No one argued that. I looked back at Daniel, at the man standing in my doorway, carrying a piece of her life I had never been allowed to see. You've been meeting him for 11 months, I said, giving him money, visiting that house like it's yours too. He didn't deny it. And then I asked the question that had been sitting in my chest since I opened that envelope. Why now? I said. Why come here today? Daniel held my gaze. Because there's something else you don't know, he said. And the way he said it, calm, steady, like the worst part hadn't even been spoken yet, made me realize everything I thought had already broken was about to break again. He didn't rush it. That was the part I remember most. A man standing in my doorway, telling me my life wasn't what I thought it was. And he still took his time, like the truth deserved to be placed carefully, not thrown. What else? I asked. My voice didn't sound like mine anymore. He looked past me again, just briefly, at her. Not for permission, but like he wanted her to say it instead. She didn't. So he did. I'm sick, he said. The words were simple, quiet, final. For a second, nothing moved. Not the air, not the light coming through the window, not even the sound of my own breathing. Sick how? I asked. He held my gaze. Late stage, he said. They caught it too late. I felt something drop inside me. Not shock, not even anger. Just a heavy, sinking understanding that this, all of it, hadn't been about betrayal in the way I thought. It had been about time. How long? I asked. A year, maybe less. A year. The same amount of time she'd been disappearing. The same amount of time the money had been leaving our accounts. The same amount of time I'd been sitting across from her at dinner, thinking something felt off, but not knowing why. I turned to her slowly. This is what you've been doing, I said. She nodded, tears running now, but still quiet. I didn't know how to tell you. So you didn't, I said. I was going to, she whispered. I kept waiting for the right moment. I let out a breath that almost turned into a laugh, but didn't quite make it. There's no right moment for something like this. Daniel shifted slightly in the doorway. I didn't come here to break anything, he said. I just didn't want to disappear without you knowing I existed. That word again. Disappear. Like he already had one foot somewhere else. I looked at him. Really looked this time. At the lines in his face, the tiredness in his eyes, the way he held himself like he was trying not to take up more space than he deserved. My son. Not mine. And yet standing in my house like he belonged to something I had built. You've been here a year, I said. And this is the first time I'm hearing your name. He didn't argue. That wasn't my choice, he said quietly. I glanced back at her. She shook her head, barely. I was afraid, she said. Of what? I asked. Her voice broke on the answer. That you'd hate me. I stood there for a long moment, looking at both of them. 40 years on one side, 1 year on the other, and somewhere in between, a truth that had been waiting longer than both. Outside, a car passed slowly down the street. Normal, ordinary, the kind of sound that shouldn't mean anything. But inside that house, everything had already shifted too far. I stepped back from the door, not to invite him in, not to push him away, just back. "I don't know what to do with this," I said. No one answered. Daniel stayed where he was. She didn't move. And for the first time in my life, standing in my own home, I realized there wasn't a single place left where I actually belonged. I looked at him one last time, at the man who had arrived too late, and yet somehow, right on time. Then I opened my mouth to say something, and stopped. If this story meant something to you, subscribe. There's more to come.